All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, at this point, we're going to go ahead and begin working on assemblies. And so we're going to start by practicing creating an assembly with the red part and the yellow subtractive part that we created earlier and turn it into a little tower. Just so you can see the construction of this tower, it's the red piece itself. Then we add a flipped yellow piece, then put an upright yellow piece on top of that, then add a flipped red piece. So to begin this process, we need to start with a new file. So I've got Untitled. And what you'll see is that you need to save the file before you can pull in a component into that file. So each of the parts that we make are known as components once we've saved them, and that's what we see over in the panel. Now you can make an assembly, which is the same file type in Fusion 360. So it's not a different type of file, but it can contain components within it. So in order to do that, we'll start off by saving. So I'm going to click Save up at the top. And in this case, I'm going to call this Practice Tower Art or Assembly. Click Save. Once I have a file called Practice Tower Assembly, then I can begin to pull in the components from the left-hand side. So I like to do this one at a time, position each one, and go from there. So the first one, I grab the red part and I pull it onto the canvas. It gives me an option to move it around, but I really want this to be at the origin the same way as the part is in the original drawing or in the original model. So all I'm going to do is go ahead and click OK. So that's there. Now the very first thing I need to do is I need to lock this down or ground it, because otherwise if I move it, then it's no longer there. You'll see that you get these, if once I've moved it, it asks me basically, do I want to capture this new position or do I want to revert it back? I'm going to go ahead and revert it back. And then I'm going to right click on the red part in the browser. And then I'm going to click ground to ground that to the origin. Now, when I try to move it, it no longer moves. If I click and drag, it will no longer move the red part. So I know it's grounded. You can also see here that there is a little thumbtack icon. That thumbtack means that it's grounded there. All right, so now that I've created a component or pulled that into this assembly, then I can go ahead and grab a second one. So I'll grab the yellow piece and pull this in. And it's going to sit in the exact same spot. So in this case, I'm going to grab this arrow and pull the yellow block away. Now I'm going to go ahead and I want to orient the yellow block similar to how I want it oriented when it's in position. So I'll use these little circle manipulators to spin it around. So I grab this circle and that allows me to spin it 180 so it's upside down. And then I'll grab this rotational circle and spin it 90 degrees till it's here. And now it's more or less oriented the way I want it to be. I can kind of pull it this way just so it's not creating an optical illusion as to where it's placed relative to the red block. And then I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So now I've pulled in this component. And the next thing I need to do is I need to create an assembly joint. So up at the top, we have this assemble connection or tool group. So if I click assemble, then I've got this choice for joint, or I can click J, or I can click here for joint. So in this case, I'm going to click on joint. And the first thing it's going to do is it's going to ask me to pick a point or position for the joint. So over on the right-hand side, I have my selection for components, and these little icons are really for matching up what you want to be connected between the models. And you'll select it for the first component, then you'll select it for the second component. In this case, it is a joint alignment. The second tab inside the joint area has each of the options. In this case, we want a rigid joint because it doesn't move. So we want to make sure that our motion is set to rigid. That's our default when we start off, but then there's some other ones as far as different axes and for sliding joints and different types of motion joints. But in this case, we don't want it to move around, so we pick rigid joint. That's this little icon here. Then we go ahead and we're going to select the part of the block that we want to interlock with the other block. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and spin to the opposite side, and I'm going to zoom in so that I can see this this face here. And when I move around the face, I'm going to go ahead and select one of these. Let's escape, hit J. And you'll see that I get that same little snap point. And now I can choose a face first off, and it's going to lock to that face. And then I pick a point for that snap point that is highlighted. So generally a vertice on the face. So if I go to this face and I pick this upper left-hand corner, then you'll see that the snap point, the column, the kind of like circle shape is pointing towards the left-hand side. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. Then this block disappears, and it's going to basically give me the option then to what do I want to snap that to. And I know that that face is going to snap to this corner here. So it's this corner point, but not the top corner, but in fact the face that is facing towards the right here. And so I'll go ahead and click there, and then it's going to bring the yellow piece up and lock it into place. Then I click OK. And now if I try to grab the yellow piece and move it around, it's going to be locked in that position. And you can also see the rigid joint connection in the upper right-hand corner. All right, so let's go ahead and do that 2 more times so we can get the feel for how this works. In this case, I'll grab another yellow part. When I pull it in, it's going to drop it in at the origin, and so we're going to want to move it around. In this case, I'm going to pull it upwards with the arrow, and then I'm just going to set it up there. Once it's set up top, then I'm going to spin around to the far side and then orbit down to see the underside, because I'm going to want this corner to match up with the top back corner of the red block. So I'm going to go up, select joint, move the bottom face and pick the back like that with a little snap joint. Then I will spin around to the top section, hover over the top red part, find my snap point in the back, click, and that's going to drop the yellow block onto the top there, and I will click OK. And now I have a second rigid point. If I return to my home view, the yellow block is on top of the other 2 blocks. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull in the red part. It ends up at the origin again, so I'm going to go ahead and pull it out from inside the other tower. I'm going to spin it upside down like we did the yellow block originally. I want to rotate it around so it's in the proper orientation, and then I want to move it up into the air so that it's a little higher so I can see about where it's going to go. Then I'll click OK. Now I'm going to go to joint one more time. I want the bottom of this red piece, so down underneath it here. This snap point is going to match to the top corner snap point here. Those lock in place. I click OK. Now I have 3 joints for the 3 components. The 3 rigid joint icons are seen here, here, and here. If I want to hide those, I can now see that I have a folder in my browser called Joints, which refers to each of those joints. If I turn off the little eyeball, the little icons disappear. And now I've gone ahead and created my tower assembly. And I can click Save, and I'll give it a version name in this case, assembly complete, and click OK. That saves it over on the left, and we are good to go. That's it. Have a good day.